Okay, we'll start the session now. I hope my audio is clear. Is there too much disturbance in the background?
No, there is little disturbance, but I think it's fine.
Okay, okay. All right, so we'll start the session now. So the first thing, you can refer to the previous session's recorded videos, where you can find the resources like basics of machine learning and PyTorch was explained, and even the task was explained in the previous session which was recorded. So this time we are just going to go quickly through the boilerplate code and understand what exactly you have to do in this task with respect to the code. So I'll just share my screen. Yeah, is this screen visible? Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is the boilerplate code which was given to you in task 1A along with the data set, which is the CSV file. So first thing you need to understand is the main function, because your code starts execution from the main function, right? So the main function is defined here. You are not supposed to change anything inside the main function. So the first thing you can see here is pandas.read CSV. This is the dataset CSV file which is provided to you in the same folder. So you can see that the dataset is being read as a pandas data frame. It is getting converted to a data frame, and that is stored in this variable task1a data frame, right? Now the next thing what is happening, now there is another variable encoded data frame. This is what is this, what is the value of this? Data preprocessing, and inside that task1a data frame is given. So basically data preprocessing is a function, and task1a, which is the data frame, is the argument to this function. So first thing you can do is you can go to the function definition of this and see what exactly that function does, right? So this is the definition of that function, data processing, and inside this task1a data frame, which is the same CSV file which is converted to data frame, that is given inside this. And now read the purpose of this function. So what is the purpose? If you see the data set which is given to you, you can see that the basic problem statement is to predict whether a person will leave or not, right? So the leave or not is the target variable, and the rest of the things are what predicts the target, right? So the rest of the data are different features that predict the target variable. So if you see the features, there are different kinds of features within the data set. Some of them are numbers and some of them are text, right? String values are there. So your neural network cannot directly work with text, like for example education level or few features which are there, I guess industry or something. So those things that are strings, so you cannot directly pass those strings to your data set, right? So one thing that you do in pre-processing is to convert these to numerical values. You can convert these strings to numbers so that your model is able to train with that data. And other things that you do usually in pre-processing is like if you, basically you try to understand your data set. What are the kind of features? What might be the correlation of the features between the features? What is the correlation of each feature with the target variable, and all these kinds of processing, like there might be missing values in the data set, so you have to see what to do, like you decide what to do with your missing values, and there are different things that goes on in the pre-processing. So basically this function is written for that. And one more thing is, each function inside this boilerplate is defined for a specific purpose. So please make sure that you stick to that particular problem statement of that function. So here the purpose of this preprocessing function is only cleaning your dataset and preprocessing your dataset. Here you cannot train your model or write any other functions inside the preprocessing. So make sure that inside each of the functions inside the boilerplate, you write the code which is very specific to that purpose, right? So this is how you can understand each function. So the first one, as I mentioned, is the data preprocessing, where all the preprocessing of your data, the data frame is taking place, and this function returns the encoded data frame, which is again a pandas data frame that has all the features. Like it now contain it, this encoded data frame is your updated data frame. Whatever pre-processing you have done to the original data, that reflects inside this encoded data frame, right? So that was the first function we called in the main function. Okay, now the second thing, you can see encoded data frame we got from pre-processing. Now you can see that this encoded data frame is given to another function called identify features and targets, and it is again returning some value. So we'll go to the definition of features and targets. So you can see that in this function we are giving the encoded data frame as the input, and the purpose of okay, so the purpose of this function is to define which are your features and which is your target variable or target variables, right? So here we know that leave or not is the target variable, so that will be your particular target, and the rest of the data frame will be your features. Like of the encoded data frame, you might have added a few rows, sorry, few columns to your data set. You might have dropped some features. Whatever you have done according to the encoded data frame, you have to select which all features you want to train the model with and what is your target variable. So there were a lot of people like having issue in this function, that their data types of the features and targets are wrong. So one thing, it might work in your code while you're just running the task1a.py, because the rest of the functions are also written by you, so you will manipulate the data types according to that. So it will work with your code, but the executable needs it to be in a particular data type, and that is why it fails with the executable and runs properly in your system. So here for features and targets, the main thing you have to notice that features is a you, like you're selecting the columns from the data frame. So I have replied in one of the queries, I had given links to that. So if you go there, you can see in what kind of format they have selected the columns. That is what you have to do specifically. So in that, you can see how multiple columns are selected from the data frame using the column name. Okay, so that is how you select the features. Then again, target is a single column. Again, you can select it using the name, that is leave or not, that is the column name. Then you have to combine both these and create one list. Okay, so this is a Python list. Inside this list, your first element will be the features and the second one will be the target, where features, again as I said, is a collection of the multiple columns that you have selected from the data frame, and target is the single column that you have defined for the target variable, right? So please note that the data frames, sorry, data types of these variables, you're following it correctly. Okay, so this is regarding the identify features in target function. And next we'll see, uh, okay, so this is our list, right? This list has the first element is features and second element is target, where features is a collection of multiple columns of the data set which you're training, which you are selecting for training, and these columns are selected with their names, and target is your leave or not single column of the data frame. Okay, so this is features and targets. Now the next thing is, I'm giving features and target to another function, load instances, right? So we'll see the function or the purpose of load instances. So like you're working with PyTorch, like you're training the neural network, and here everything works on the basis of tensors, right? PyTorch is able to take your data and train it, update it, give you output. Everything happens by the manipulation of tensors. So in the previous function where you selected the features and targets, you still have it as a data frame only. But here we have to convert those into tensors. So here basically what you'll do is you'll take the features and targets from your list which was created in the previous function and basically convert those features and targets into tensors. So you can see here the different kinds of tensors that are required. So basically extrain, so the thing is you have a full data set. You divide the data set into two parts. You, for one part you use for training your model and other part you use for testing your model. So make sure that whatever data you're using for training, you do not use the same data for testing as well, right? So in each of the categories, one is training data, one is testing data. So inside each category there is again features and labels, right? So here the extrain tensor is the features or the values of the features which are there in your training data set, and corresponding labels will be stored in the y train tensor. So extrain tensor and y train tensor together form a pair where extrain tensor and like it is the features, y train tensor is the target variable converted into tensors, and together this forms your full training data. The similar thing happens with x test tensor and y test tensor, right? So that both combined makes your validation data or the testing data. So these are two separate things. You have to ensure that you do not test the model with the same data that you trained the model with, because in that case your model has already seen that data, so it will give you 100% accuracy, which is not desired, right? Your model should be able to predict well on unseen data. That is the aim of creating the model. So this is one important thing that you have to see here. And the iterable data set objects, so this is an optional thing. You can load it into a data loader of the PyTorch, like of the PyTorch library, and then you can use it as an iterable you know basically you iterate over the tensors while training. Otherwise also you can just do it directly using the x test or xtrain tensor also. That is totally fine. So the basic purpose of this function is to load your data, training and testing data as tensors. Okay. Now the next function, so all those combined we made a list, as you can see here. This whole function returns tensors and iterable training data, which is a Python list where the items are given here. The first item or the item at index 0 will be your training tensor, then test tensor, and similarly the labels, and the last one is the data loader, right? So this is the output of your function. The next function is model equal to salary predictor. Basically the salary predictor is a class over here. Okay, so the salary predictor is a class where you're going to define the architecture of your model, right? So here we have init and the forward subclasses. So here basically you're going to define the architecture, that is the number of layers you will be using, the number of neurons that you're going to use, the kind of activation functions that you use, all that you will be defining over here. This is the class. So basically whenever you're training your model, or the model is a object of this class. So basically for initiating this class we'll call the so model is the object of this class, which you will be using for training the architecture of the model. Now there are three functions: model loss function, model optimizer, model number of epochs. So as mentioned in the previous sessions, these are some of the hyperparameters of your model. So you have to define these things, right? So Okay, so this is the model loss function where you just have to define which loss function you're going to use. You can use the ones which are readily available in PyTorch, or if you want to define a loss function of your own, that is also fine. Basically, you are here, you just have to define what is your loss function, what kind of loss function your model is going to use. Now the next function was model optimizer. Here you basically select which optimizer you want to use for training your model, right? And number of epochs, here you just have to write number of epochs equal to how much, an integer number. That means your model will be trained for that many epochs. Okay, so that are the three parameters. So after these are defined, now we are ready to train the model, right? So what did we do? We took the data frame, we pre-processed it, we identified the features and targets of the data, then we loaded everything as tensors. We have the model architecture over here. We have defined the loss function, optimizer, and number of epochs. So everything is defined now. I have to start training the model. So this is the function for training your model, right? Okay, so this is the training function. You can see what all are the inputs here. This is your model's architecture. Then somebody's okay. Okay, so this is your model, number of epochs you're going to train for, then your tensors, data tensors, loss function and optimizer, all these are required for training your model. So here, this is the function where you like explained last time in that PyTorch session. You can see the process of training, right? So first you calculate the predicted output, then you find the loss, then you back propagate the loss, then you use the optimizer to update the parameters, update the weights and bias. So that is the basic flow of how you train the model. And if you refer to the previous video of PyTorch session, you can see like how the code goes. So basically that is given there, and this is your training function. So once you are done, your model, your trained model is returned from here. That is the trained model variable. Okay, now once your model is ready, we have to see how well your model is performing on unseen data, right? So that is where the validation function comes in, and this is a very important step that you have to do after training, because otherwise you will not know like what is the accuracy of your model or how well it is performing with unseen data. So here in the validation function, we will be using the test tensors which we created earlier, right? So here what you're going to do, you now have the trained model and you have the test tensors. So what will you do? You'll take the model and you'll take your test tensors and give it to the model and take predictions. Now you print out the predictions and see what is happening, like what kind of predictions are you getting, and you compare it with your actual output. So what will be the input to the model in the validation function? It will be x test tensor, right? So this will be your input for the validation function, and using your trained model you will get some predictions, and these are the actual labels, right? So 0 or 1 depending on whether the employee will leave the company or not, that will be given in your white test tensor, and you'll have your own predictions from your model, and basically you have to compare your prediction with the actual values and see how accurate the predictions are. So that is the basic purpose of this validation function. So you many people had said that their validation accuracy is high, but it is slow in case of when they are trying with executable. It is either staying constant or they're getting 0. So in all such cases, the basic thing you have to understand is like there is something going wrong in the code. There is something wrong with the model, and that is why your accuracy is neither improving or it is zero or whatever. So the only thing that you can do is first check the correctness of your validation function. Like if you have if you have the function written wrongly, then that might be the case that you are getting some high accuracy in this, and in the executable it is failing. So make sure that you follow this method which I mentioned. Now you take the X test tensor, give it your model, take the predictions, and you compare it with the actual values, that is the Y test tensor. So that is how you should be checking the accuracy of your model. And if it is like constant or zero, then check your outputs. Just print your predictions and print the Y test tensor, so you can visually compare your outputs with the actual outputs and see. In most of the cases, that is what is going wrong, and not most of the cases, in all of the cases where I check the outputs, that is going wrong. Either that is because you have used a wrong activation function, either or it is because your model is predicting in out of range. So basically that again relates to your activation function itself. So the range of the outputs is very important. It has to be either 0 or 1, not even between 0 or 1. See, the output is either he'll leave the company or he will not. That is either 0 or 1, right? So even if you use a sigmoid function, your output might be between 0 and 1. It might be zero point 0.4 or zero point 0.5, but your actual output will never be zero point 0.4 or zero point 0.5. It will be either 0 or 1. So whatever activation function you're using, make sure that you finally convert that into 0 or 1. That is the only value your model needs to predict. It should not be a tensor, it should not be any value between 0 and 1. It should not be out of the range, like it should not be below 0, it should not be greater than 1. So all these things you have to make sure, and the only way to do that is just print your outputs and see what you're getting. Like other than that, there is no reason why it fails in the executable specifically. So that is the basic boilerplate code. And yeah, so basically this part you need not change. It is just saving your model, whatever you have trained, that is getting saved as the pth file. And one more thing regarding this getting different accuracies. Whenever you change your code, whenever you change something in this file task1a.py, whether it be anything in pre-processing or be it anything related to your architecture or your hyperparameter values, anything you change in this code, and if you run it again, basically your pth model or the bait file also gets updated. Okay, so if you're running it in Kaggle or Colab or something, and when you're trying to run it with the executable, always make sure that you take the updated model. Whatever code you had written and run, you use the same model for testing it with the executable. If there is a mismatch between the code that you've written and you're using some previous version of the wait file, then again it will cause an issue. Okay, so this is the basic boilerplate function. Now I think we can take some queries. We can put it on the chat or something. Is there a chat actually? Um, Salsa, is there an option for chat
Yeah,
in this?
there is an option for chat. Are you able to see it?
Actually, no.
Uh, are you able to click on raise hand option?
Yeah, that is there.
Settings option is there only for chat. I think they can raise their hand and unmute their mic and ask the questions. They are not able to see the
Okay.
chat option. One by one, maybe we can.
Yeah, I can see Kiran. You can maybe unmute and see.
I was about to ask a little bit out. Like we have prepared the whole model and we have trained like the whole execution file is ready from our side, our Python file. But when we are executing, putting the same Python file with the executable file, it's giving us the error that it is not able to find the Python file, although we have put all the files in the same directory.
Okay, so above that, you might find some import errors. Most probably, you might be importing some other libraries which are not present in the executable.
Uh,
Could you check the
Mostly,
output?
I cannot find that. Like I could see there is one error might be that train model is not defined, and I could run it in different compilers. I have also run the same program in Colab also with the same format as given in the boilerplate.
Yeah,
There,
that is fine.
yes.
But when you're running it with the executable, are you finding any import errors? It will be most probably there under the the team ID and all that after you enter that.
No,
Above this 1A not file, you might see some import errors. Have you imported anything from outside, especially some SQL libraries?
no.
Uh, mm, you
It's
can
just saying that train underscore model is not defined and it's not showing any import error.
train underscore model is not defined.
Yeah.
Okay. Could you post this in discourse like with the screenshot? Like, I'm not able to understand why
I
that is
I
happening.
guess I have posted it in the forum. Just now I posted it.
Okay. Uh,
Is
Python
there
file.
any email where I can personally put the
Okay.
post?
This mkiran.26, that is it. That is yours.
Yeah.
Okay. Just try one thing. Remove the space from your documents name. Sorry, folder's name. Yantra you have written. Uh, Remove that space from the name, and
Okay, okay.
also that task underscore 1a dot 01. Remove the dot as well. Maybe you can try with
There
that.
is no dot, I guess.
It is showing a dot. Your current directory is in the
Okay,
last
okay.
document. Yeah.
Okay, that 1A01 or what? That dot we have to remove, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
maybe you
I'll
can
try.
try that and uh, let us know through discourse itself. We'll take the other queries as well. You can see Vedan.
Thank you.
Yeah. Vedan.
Vedant, you are not audible.
Hello, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So my error is regarding while executing an executable. So, uh, so it is like showing the error like dimensional mismatch. We cannot multiply the matrices A and B with specific dimension. Yeah, and the error is showing at the neural network layer. So, what is
Okay.
the specific error? I am not getting it.
Yeah, so this matrix multiplication error you will be getting in few particular cases. One thing is if you have defined your architecture wrongly before training your model, so you might write like the input layer, if it has 3 neurons, let's say, and in the next layer you define to have 16 neurons, then the first layer you'll write 3 comma 16, and in the next, if you write something other than 16, then that is going to fail. But this thing with the network architecture, if you're having that problem, then you will not be able to train your model. It will show the error there itself. And let's suppose if you have trained the model, that means there is nothing wrong in the architecture of your model. And when it is showing an error while running it with the executable, one thing that might be going wrong, as I mentioned before, you might be running it in Colab or Kaggle, and then you update the code over here, but you are not updating the PTH file. In that case, that will happen. Like suppose you change the architecture, uh, and your model is trained with the old hyperparameters which are still there, but in the code you have updated. That again will not work. If you're updating the code, you have to use the updated PTS file itself. That is one thing. Then another thing that might be going wrong is you might have added your targets in the features column before training. If you have not removed that, then that might cause an issue, because here you're separating your labels and features, but in training you might have given it all together. So these are most probably the reasons why it is showing matrix multiplication error. It has nothing to do with the executable. It is basically some mismatch between your code and the model you've trained.
So, ma'am, may I ask you a question? Like, is there a fixed number of features to be allowed?
No, there is no limitation on the number of features, the architecture, number of neurons, hyperparameters. There is no limit on any of these. That is up to you to decide.
Okay, ma'am, but regarding all of those approaches, I have tried those. Then also it is showing that. And I am compiling my file in PyCharm. Means it should be
Uh,
auto-save them. Or
can you talk a
after
little
training,
louder?
sorry.
There is too much noise in the background.
Uh, yeah, ma'am. Right. Hello,
Yeah.
can you hear me? Regarding all those approaches you said, trying all those parameters, but I am getting it. The error is not, the error is showing that after rechecking all those parameters.
Okay. It's
Where
like
it's showing that matrices can be multiplied 1 into 7 and another
your voice is
like,
breaking
like
too much.
sorry.
Your voice is breaking very much. I'm not able to understand what you're saying.
Ma'am, 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 can you ask the queries from others?
Vedan, can you turn off one of your system? Like there is an echo here. Like I think there are two devices on at a time. So just turn off the audio output of the other device.
Ma'am, is there any chat box in the meeting?
I don't think so. I'm not able to see. I don't think so. There's a chat option. Yeah, in the meantime, while you fix the issue, if any others have any doubts, you can, yeah, Parth, yeah.
And can you give us any tips for improving the accuracy of our model? Because we are not able to get uh, good accuracy on the images.
So for improving the accuracy, like I mentioned before, it is just the hyperparameter tuning. Like there is a lot of things from the beginning itself, like how you pre-process your data. Like you need to understand which features like improve the accuracy of your model and which features do not improve the accuracy. So basically that everything you'll have to do it by trial and error itself. There is no fixed method to improve your accuracy. So the first thing is the feature selection, how well you can select your features so that the accuracy of your model is highest. So that is the thing with pre-processing. Then the next thing when it comes to your model architecture, like how deep your model should be, how many layers, how many neurons in each layer, what kind of activation functions that you have to use. So I will suggest you refer to the last session's video recording, because everything was explained there in detail. I will not go into the details again of each of the hyperparameters and the effect of changing the hyperparameters. All that was explained last time, so you can go through that recording. So yeah,
Okay, ma'am.
yeah. So your architecture, your hyperparameters basically, and one more thing is like I cannot stress the importance of this, because many of you are facing the issue because you're not trying to debug it. Like you have to visually see the output of your model. Other than that, there is nothing else you can like that is the first and foremost important thing that you should do. You should print the output of your model, that is from the after you train the model using the validation function and your test tensors, print the output, print the predicted outputs and print the actual outputs and see what is the difference. So if the actual outputs will be a list of zeros and ones, right, and your outputs, if you're not using the correct activation functions, or if you're not converting your output to zeros or ones, then the accuracy will be always zero. Sometimes by luck it your this model might predict 0 or 1 and that might get a match, but basically the problem is with the model. So you have to see the output, what output you are getting, and then you compare it, and through iteration only you can do that basically.
But even between the values, even when the values were between 0 and 1, I was getting around like 40-50% accuracy on my computer. I hadn't like made it so that it will only give us 1 or 0. It was the output was between 0 and 1, and still I was getting like 40.
Yeah, so that is what I said. You might be getting values between 0 and 1s, and sometimes you are getting 0 and 1 as well in your predictions. And by luck, it might be matching with the actual output, because actual output is either 0 or 1. So that is by fluke you are getting that accuracy. That is not the actual way. That is something wrong with your model. So the model's output, the final output of your model should be either 0 or 1, no matter what kind of activation functions you use and all that. The final list should be either 0 or 1. There is no other values in between or wherever else. So that is very important to see that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Bhuvanesh, Bhuvanesh, can you hear me?
Bhunesh, you are not audible if you're speaking.
Shashank, you can go ahead maybe.
Ma'am, I have two doubts.
Yeah.
Yes, the first one is in load as tensor function. What is the big one, ma'am, which we are returning, which is like iterable data type? What actually does it mean?
Okay, so that is what I said. Iterable dataset is basically an optional thing which you can do. Even without iterable data, also you can do that. So there is a specific thing called data loader in PyTorch, which you can search for. So this data loader, what it does is it takes the whole data frame and like basically it makes it into a format which is iterable, which is what you need for training your data, right? So you can directly take it from the data loader and give it to the training data. Otherwise, you can still do take the trained tensor and iterate it and give it to the model for training. It won't make much of a difference. So this iterable data, like the last item of that list is optional. The other four are, as I mentioned, you are basically splitting your data into trained data and test data. And inside, in each of these category, you have the features and labels, right? So target labels. So the features will be your X variable and the labels will be your Y variable. So X train and Y train will be used together for training your model, and X test and Y test will be used for validating your model or testing your model. And the important thing is this should be mutually exclusive. You cannot use the same data you use for training, you cannot use it for testing as well. So that's it about that function.
Okay, ma'am. Another doubt is that if you are executing the file and we are getting the accuracy of the model, okay, ma'am. And after doing that, if we again do some changes and then when we try to run it, means can we use the same testing technique? Is it like will the testing set can be reused again after changing the Python code?
Uh, Testing file need not be updated. You're talking about the executable, right? Not your validation
No,
function.
no, no, ma'am. No, what I'm
The
asking is
executable.
that no, the testing set right now, the testing data set, can it be reused or we should be using a new data set?
No, you are basically dividing your data inside your code only, right? You're
Yes,
you're
ma'am.
asking about the test tensor which is given to the validation function. So
Yes.
that in most of the cases, if you're using a random seed or randomly selecting the data, the rows from the data frame for dividing the data set, then it will be random and like it will be in the same code. So you need not make any changes manually. Like each time you run the code, the data you might, if you're using random or something, then it will be different. There is you cannot do anything manually to change your test tensor. Like it is not required. So if you're writing it in the same code and if you're running it, then that doesn't matter basically. You just have to check the accuracy. It doesn't matter if it is like the same. I mean, you cannot give the training and testing data as same, but each time you iterate the code, there is no need to update anything manually.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Um, Kiran,
Hello, ma'am. Yes, whatever changes you told, we did those things also. Even then also same error is coming.
okay. Have you written something like trained? Okay, so trained model is your like basically like the trained data that is coming from your training function. Um, okay, that is trained model. Just so have you changed any name of that? The
No,
model's name?
no, I have not changed anything.
The return variable of your training function that is trained model only.
Yes, I have cross checked 5 times.
Okay. Okay, what is your team ID?
2663.
Upload your code into portal. Like I am not able to understand without seeing your code.
Okay, ma'am. Will I be able to again upload it in case of any errors?
Yeah, you can resubmit any number of times.
Okay, ma'am. I'll be
Yeah.
submitting the Python file, right?
Yeah, use in the zip file format only. Just inside that you can just keep the Python file.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then you told that
Um,
I'll be uploading the zip file, right?
Yeah, you can upload the zip file in the portal. Yeah,
Any other queries?
Ma'am, yeah, I actually was trying to ask earlier,
yeah.
but because of network fluctuation, I got uh, left from the
Uh,
meeting. So I wanted to ask that is there any announcement for the quiz which was scheduled for task 1A?
Yeah, it
uh,
will be announced tomorrow. Like tomorrow, you will get the announcement.
Okay. And in what mode it will be conducted?
It will be announced. Like it will be mentioned in the discussion. Get all the
Okay, fine,
instructions.
fine.
Any other queries?
Ma'am, now I'm audible. Clearly.
there is
Yeah.
too much.
So
Yeah,
my doubt is regarding the matrix multiplication.
yeah,
As
matrix
I have
multiplication.
said, yeah, the executable was showing the error at the neural network architecture at first layer, but I have means like I have executed it in PyCharm, but it is running successfully. I'm getting my accuracy, then also executable is showing the error.
Okay. Again, like I can't do anything without seeing the code. Maybe you can also update it, like upload your code into in the portal.
How can I
Uh,
get your
just
response?
check
Can
one more thing. In your features and what was the function? Identify features and targets, right? Yeah. So in that function, make sure that uh, whatever you're using for training has to be defined inside that function only. Just excuse me for a second. I'll just come. Hello. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I was saying is in the identify features and targets function, you have to whatever features you're using for training. Um, okay, before that in pre-processing, um, sorry, in identify features and targets itself, whatever features you're going to use for training has to be defined in that function itself. If you define some features and targets over here, then while training your function there you're going to use some other features, then that will cause an issue. So make sure that whatever features you're going to train your model with is defined only inside this function. You cannot define it somewhere else. So the features and targets, and in the specific format, like as columns of data frames, I think that you're doing properly. Maybe after that you're getting the matrix multiplication error.
Yeah.
So make sure that also, like whatever features you will be using for training, the same thing you have written in the features and targets function, and also the first layer of your neuron, like the number of features you're using will be the first number of in neurons in your input layer. So make sure that that also matches. And the most important thing is, if you are updating the code, you make sure that you're using the same pts file. If you drop one feature in your code, then you're using some previous version of the pts file, then also this will happen. Like in your features, let's suppose you trained a model initially with 7 features. Now you came to your code and decreased the number of features, maybe you made it 5. So now if you run it with the previous PTS file, here you have defined 5 features in your function, but the PTS file which is already trained is trained with 7 features. So there again the mismatch will happen. So these are mostly the reasons why it is failing. Other than that, there is nothing wrong with the executable. Also, the executable which you're using shouldn't be the old one. If you're using the one which you had download previously, just delete that and like download the new one which is given, which is updated. Mostly these are the things that are going wrong. Other than that, I don't think so.
Ma'am, should I upload my error on forum?
Yeah, you can upload it on forum, but anyways, try these things, and if none of that works, then post it in forum.
Yeah, I'm not just getting it means where the error is occurred. Like it was showing one metric is like I have got it like 64 into 8. No, that is like my input layer. So 64 are like hidden layers node numbers. So I'm getting it, but second matrix is 1 into 7 something. But I'm not getting which matrix is it. That's why I'm not getting the error.
Okay, maybe you can upload your code in the eYRC portal. What is
Then
your team
how can I
ID?
get your response, ma'am? 1673.
Just a second.
Hello, ma'am.
Just a second, just a second. You said 1693, right?
1673, ma'am.
1673. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe you can upload it in the portal. Like, try all these things and make sure that is working correctly. And otherwise, you can
I will
upload it in
upload it,
portal.
but how can I get your response?
Uh, you can put it on the forum as well
Okay,
and
thanks.
mention your team ID along with it.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah,
I wanted to correct myself. Did you say to upload on portal or forum? Hold the
in the
files.
portal, in the eYRC portal, you have to upload the zip file.
Okay, okay. I'll upload on the portal. And just whether I have to inform you on the forum or what again?
You have already posted it in the forum, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I saw that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that zip, ma'am, and that zip file will contain Python file and that .pth file, right?
PTS file is not necessary. You can upload the code only for now.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other queries? Just one instruction I would like to say that, like many of you are asking similar kind of queries. So you first go through the problem statement clearly. Just understand the problem statement, and then if you are getting any issues while solving the task, then go through the discussion forum. Before going to the discussion forum, first try to search on internet, like whether what is the query, like what issue you are getting. Like there are very many websites where you can clear your queries, like Stack Overflow is one of them. So most of the queries you will get answered there. If still your query persists, then you can ask, then you can check the discuss forum. So your team, like other participants, must have also got the same problem, and we have also replied to that problem, or some other participants would have helped the team. So first go through the discuss forum. If still you don't get the like the query, then you can ask on the discuss forum. So you need to learn this debugging skills, because in the future task it will be like there will be also many issues that you will be facing, and in future task it's like unique issues that you can get. So it's better like if you learn how to debug, like it will be helpful for doing your any project in future. You need to learn this debugging skills. Yeah, any other queries if you have, then you can ask. I think there are no hand raises, so I think it's clear for all. And yeah, so tomorrow you will get an announcement regarding the quizzes, so time and all when to submit the quiz. So by tomorrow evening, you will get the quiz announcement for task 1. Yeah, any
Sir,
other?
can you
Yeah, Shashank, you were telling something.
yes, sir, can you repeat about the quiz?
Yeah, the quiz announcement will be announced tomorrow, like about the quiz. So there will be a few questions that you need to solve. So within the given time period, and it carries the weightage for task 1.
Okay, sir.
I think if there are no queries, then we can end the. Shama, do you want to add anything?
No, nothing from my side.
Okay, okay, cool. Then we can add end the meet. I'm stopping the recording.